There you go.
So you might want to get back to that.
Okay, this doesn't look familiar. Is that new or like the little people on the? Is that?
I think it's
We ready? Time is 7:02. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We call the meeting to order. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. The first meeting is the Board of Equalization meeting of August 11th, 2020. Time is 7:03. We'll begin with roll call.
Let me try that again. Motion carries 7-0.
Item 1. Resolution 2020-157 to levy a special tax and assessment against Original Town North 102 feet, Lot 1, and North 102 East 16.5, Lot 2, Block 127, in the amount of $336.67 for debris and weed cleanup. VCVD Inc. This time we'll have staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This item was for cleanup for property located at Lot 1, Block 2, Block 2, and Lot 2, Block 127, Original Town. The owner's VCBD. And in speaking with Councilmember here before the meeting, we'll notice that in addition to the charge that's on the bill, there's an additional $20. That's for the charge to both file the lien and release the lien once the amount due is paid. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for staff? Any comments from the public? Comments from the board? Councilman Yeager.
I'd make a motion to approve resolution 2020-157.
There's a second. Councilmember Jacobus.
I'll second that motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 2, resolution 2020-158 to levy a special tax and assessment against Blair's Lot 10, Block 9, in the amount of $282.49 for debris and weed cleanup. Schindler Justin. This time we'll have staff report.
Mayor, this staff report, similar to the last one, again, the $20 is to file and release. This is for the property 75 South Platte. It's located in Blair's Lot 10, Block 9.
Any questions from the board or staff? Comments for the public? Comments from the board? I would take a motion in regards to this item. Councilmember Jensen.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2020-158.
Councilmember Jacobus.
I'll second his motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
I would take a motion to adjourn the Board of Equalization. The time is 7:07. Councilmember McLean,
I make a motion, we adjourn the Board of Equalization meeting.
is there a second? Councilmember Jacobus,
And I'll second her motion.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
We'll call the regular council meeting of August 11th, 2020. The time is 7:08. The Opens Meeting Act is posted on the rear wall next to the agendas. This time we'll begin with roll call.
Mayor, 7 council members are present.
Next is mayor's comments. I just want to thank city staff, the street department, utility workers, everyone that got involved in regards to the win that we had Sunday morning and actually what we had yesterday morning and the cleanup. I know we're not totally done, but certainly a lot of work's been accomplished. Certainly Sunday morning, it appeared that the central part of town, Main Street, 9th Street, from 16th to the north was affected heavily. And then other parts of town had some damage, but certainly some of our older trees kind of lost some branches and truly was a considerable amount of cleanup. We had an announcement actually before 9 o'clock that morning that the city dump would be open and allow for tree removal from dawn to dusk. And I think that was advantageous and something that I know we've done it the last couple of times, but it used to never be done. So it really is great for the citizens to be able to get started on their cleanup and have a place to take it, even if it happens on a weekend. So with that, we'll move on. First item is motion to adopt current agenda for August 11th, 2020, regular meeting. Is there any items to be removed or moved from the agenda? Councilmember Jacobus?
I know that it had been said that it was going to be removed, but I'd like to move 22 and 23 to the forefront so we could have light discussion with the intent to remove.
Is there a second? Councilman Yerger?
A second Councilmember Jacobus's request.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 5-2.
Any other items? I would take a motion to amend the current agenda by moving items 22 and 23 next to the consent agenda. Councilmember Jacobus?
I move that we move items 22 and 23 ahead of the consent agenda.
Councilman Yerger?
And I would second the motion to move and adopt the agenda.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 6-1 there.
Next item is public hearings. Resolution authorizing the mayor to sign all documents for the Fremont Housing Authority relating to environmental review for 2020 capital funds grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. This time we'll have staff report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is an item that I received from Leading Great with the Fremont Housing Authority. It's an item that happens every 5 years. I believe it's related to a grant process they work on. The funds that they get from it are used towards improving the facilities for the people who live there. I'm not sure Leading Great is available to speak tonight. If she is, she can maybe answer some of your questions. And this, my understanding is the Northeast Nebraska Economic Development helps them provide this report, and then they found that there's no environmental impact to report. That's my report.
Any questions for staff? Councilman Yerger.
I'd like to ask if the document that's labeled request for release of funds and certification that the mayor would be signing. I don't know the exact page of the packet material, but at item 4, section part 2, item 4, there are 2 boxes to check in that authorization. I assume that the box that says it did not require preparation of dissemination of an environmental statement impact should be checked. Is that correct?
I would assume this document was provided to the city staff by the Housing Authority. So I would assume so, but that's kind of a really great question, and not sure that it's going to affect the outcome of what we do, other than it's something that we would have to deal with. I don't remember checking anything in the past, but could have been done.
I guess my theory was for asking that if we actually did require something, then we would need to have it attached herewith. Otherwise, we would be making a verbal statement that none's required. It seems like it's an either or, and if it's required, then we should be including it here as part of our material as to what that impact statement really is. I'm a little uncomfortable, just as I've been in the past, with approvals of things that aren't fully indicated relative to what we're signing off on when we vote.
So I'm not real familiar with this item. I wasn't here last time it was done. The information that was provided in my memo, which reflects the notice that was put in the paper to the public, it does say no further environmental review of such project is proposed to be conducted prior to the release of federal funds. And maybe that answers your question, that there's not any additional environmental. That would make sense to me, but I will verify that with the agreement for the mayor sign the document.
Any other questions for staff? Councilmember Jacobus.
I also am not familiar with this process, so it's been 5 years, but I don't recall seeing it in front of us. I just wondered if we've had other funding like this for other housing areas within Fremont, because this is every 5 years. And I think Mr. Councilmember Coons might have been around during that time frame. And the rest of the board, as far as council, but Mayor mentioned, you know, can you get a little bit more light on this? So I'm not as familiar with this as I would like to be.
So typically what it is it's a certification that they have to go through, and so it's kind of like the certification of a hospital. but it's a certification of their 2 buildings. So they actually go in and they do an environmental study of the grounds. They look at all of the energy efficiency of the equipment that's being supplied. They check water temperatures. They check all of the quality of water that's being supplied to the rooms in all of their facilities that they're involved with. So it's a pretty in-depth review. That's why it's only done every 5 years. And that affects funding, because these dollars, then if they get a clean bill of health, then they can use these dollars for future improvements to that facility to safeguard the facility and make it more energy efficient.
Is there any issue with us saying that will pass this with the premise that there are no requirements for dissemination of environmental impact statements that correlates with what these documents hold? Because I also saw that on part 2, which is a signatory page for review for sign there. So I have no fault with this. I think it's awesome you don't get the funding to update that, because I know the towers have been there for years, and there's probably a lot of improvements that could benefit. So is there an issue with doing that from a legal standpoint, maybe, Travis? Or?
That condition when placed on passing this, that would be fine. Just by looking at it, I believe it may be, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Hold on, I'm zooming myself here. By looking at those pages, they may have not checked one or the other just because of the list. The project description is various. Under part 1, number 11 kind of just describes a lot of different types of projects. And I think question number 4 might be more of a specific question, but I'm sure if there were an issue, the Omaha HUD office would notify. But the condition you requested, that'd be fine.
So it would be appropriate to have that the proposal did not require preparation and dissemination of environmental impact statement, according to the backup document.
I'd say based on reviewing it right now, yeah.
Okay. So if that's the way it is, then I would make a motion to approve this based on an assumption.
We actually, let's amend it. So let's amend it, make a motion to amend, and let's get that, and we'll open the public hearing.
Motion to amend.
Is there a second? Councilman Yerger?
Yes, I would second the motion to amend to check the box, not requiring environmental statement.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 6-1, Mayor.
Now, we'll open the public hearing. Is there any comments from the public? We'll close the public hearing. Final comments from council. Councilman Yerger.
Make a motion to approve amended resolution 2020-159.
Councilmember Jacobus.
And I'll second his motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Moving on to item 22. Resolution 2020-167, authorizing the mayor to sign agreements with Fremont Soccer Club and Midland University for the use of the soccer fields at Christensen Field. This time we'll have staff report.
Mayor, members of council, we've asked to have this removed simply because
the soccer club and Midland met yesterday. They continue to work out a compromise. And so once they get that hammered out, it will go. The current plan is they would go back to the park board at the regular September meeting. And then if there's something to come before us, it'll come on the first agenda in September.
Councilmember Jacobus.
The reason why you asked to have this lightly discussed was because there was contracts that were included, and from all intents and purposes, and chatting the Midland individual as well as from a soccer club individual, neither had involvement in this contract. So where did these contracts come from that were included in the packet? And when this comes before this, I will assume that this will be because they didn't want to work it out without interference from us.
So remember the contracts, so you were at the meeting the other night, the contracts were in there simply because at the time we put those changes out, we assumed that the soccer club's contract had expired and we were incorrect. That was incorrect. And so neither contract has any relevance today.
So without further beating this up, I do make a motion to remove this out from the agenda. Both 22 and 23.
Yep, thank you.
Councilman Jensen, did you have a comment?
No, if there was a motion to table the 22 and 23, I'll second it.
Let's just say remove from the agenda. And that allows us to continue. So we have a motion and a second to remove items 22 and 23 from the agenda to be continued to a further date. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Next item is the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council, will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Is there any items to be removed from the consent agenda, items 3 through 15? I do know we have an adjustment that needs to be, or an amendment to the minutes. So item 6 would have to be pulled. Are there any other items to be pulled from the consent agenda? Councilmember Jacobus?
Simply just to bring a little notice to it, I'd like to have 12 and 14 removed for the appointments. And then I also would like to have some light discussion on item number 15. And yes, that's it.
Any other items? Councilman Yerger?
I'd like to ask a couple questions with regards to item 5. And I would also like to get some clarity with regards to the dates on item 9. Please.
Any others? I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda items 3, 4, 7, 8, 10, 11, and 13. Councilman Yerger.
Make a motion to approve those consent agenda items as listed.
Councilmember McLean,
I'll second that.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 5, motion to receive quarterly financial statements. This time we'll have staff report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Jody Sanders, Director of Finance. You have before you the quarterly statements through June 2020. That's 3/4 of our year, with us having a fiscal year into September 30th. I would, the report itself is fairly exhaustive, so I guess I'll defer to questions.
Councilman Yerger.
Yes, my reason for asking for some commentary on this, Jody, was just to simply see if you could enlighten council and the public for the items that we see in your report that have budget expenditures in excess of 100% of their amounts, if I'm reading the report correctly. I'm wondering if you could just expand somewhat on that, and as to the operations between now and when the fiscal year is over, if in fact they're already at limit.
Great question. So I've noted in my report that there were 2 departments that have spent more than the 75% of their budgeted operating expenditures, and that would be administration. And that's where we charged the emergency repairs at the Rod and Gun Club site, and then also the Fremont Farmland Railroad levy evaluation costs, the engineering related to that. And then the other piece is the sanitation department or waste transfer station. As I referenced earlier, the garbage hauler tax is up, as is the revenue for the tipping fees at the transfer station are up by $101,000. So with taking more in, you have to pay more to transfer it out, and so our hauling and tipping fee costs at the coalition site were higher year to date so far. In terms of the balance of the year, we're almost halfway there already. And so in terms of budgeted expenditures, I guess I'm not anticipating that we would be too far over. Remember that when we're measuring our budgets, we are looking at it as a whole for the entire city, which includes the utilities. So there are projects that won't get done or won't be done in their entirety. And so I don't anticipate that we would be going over budget overall, or we would be looking at amending the 2020 budget.
One of the items that you didn't mention, at least I didn't think I heard it, was with regards to capital expenditures related to fire at being 468%. I assume that's because we purchased something in a different timeline than what we had planned. It's the amount over previous budget cycle, I think. I think it's probably truck.
Right, the percentage of the fiscal year expended. I can't understand why that would calculate in that way. I think there's an error on the report, because 153,000 is well within the 444,000 that's listed there.
I agree. That's why I didn't understand exactly what was going on when I got over to the other column.
Right. We will have to check and see if there's an error in that formula.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Comments from the public? Vince, your hand's up. You just need to unmute.
Can you hear me now? The record.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. The request is to have make sure the unmute We couldn't hear two of the council members and Tyler because they weren't unmuted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think it's just pointing out the fact.
Yeah, I think he's pointing out the fact that we need to make sure that council members unmute. Let's do a better job of taking a look at that. Any other comments from the public? I would take a motion to receive the quarterly financial statements. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make a motion to receive the quarterly financial statements.
is there a second? Councilman Coons.
I'll second that motion.
Item 6, vote, cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
It didn't show the vote. Item 6, dispense with and approve July 28, 2020 City Council meeting minutes. Tyler, you want to just update on the adjustments you made?
Yes, thank you. Councilman Yerger brought to my attention on item 19 and 23, the nay votes. I did not record those properly, and so the record should, or the minutes should reflect that Councilmember Yerger and Ellis voted nay on item 19, and that Councilmember Yerger voted nay on item 23.
Any questions for staff? Comments from the public? Comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to the approval of the minutes. Councilman Yerger,
Make a motion to approve the amended minutes.
Councilmember Jacobus,
No, second.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 9, Resolution 2020-161, approving the request of Main Street Fremont to use 18 parking stalls west of John C. Fremont Park for sand sculptures on Main. At this time, we'll have staff report.
Mayor and council, this is a request to close the area of Main Street west of John C. Fremont Park for sand sculptures, 18 parking spots for a period of time. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, that's an error. It should be south.
I thought it was to the, oh, I'm sorry, yes, to the south. Yeah.
So I talked to Courtney today, and that's an error. It should be south. Their request, she said she has no idea directions, and so to her that was south.
Okay.
Comments for staff, questions for staff. Councilman Yerger.
My question really was one of the dating, I guess. I think the resolution is accurate. Didn't really coincide with the letter, which I think is in error, but I just wanted to double check. So this event is August 31st through September 8th. not as the letter indicated that the street closure or the closure was to begin on August 1st. I think that was probably an error, but the resolution itself is accurate at August 31st to September 8th. Is that correct?
Yeah, it should coincide with what's the band that's coming? Green Day?
Lemon Fresh Day.
Lemon Fresh Day, thank you. Lemon Fresh Day. So whenever the concert in the park is, it coincides with that because they're going to have a tremendous turnout there, and that's why they wanted the sand sculptures. Yeah, it's only a week. I think it's a
The
week
letter
period.
says Sunday, August 1st until Tuesday, September 8th, and I'm pretty sure that's inaccurate.
No, that's wrong.
Any other questions for staff? Comments from the public? Comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to resolution 2020-161. Councilman Yerger.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2020-161.
Councilmember Jacobus.
And I will second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 12, move to appoint Nick Morris as fire lieutenant per mayor recommendation. Truly got the applications from civil service, had conversations with them in regards to the appointment, had conversations with the fire chief in regards to the appointment, and then reviewed all of the resumes and made the appointment and recommendation of Nick Morris as the new fire lieutenant. Is there any questions from staff or from council? Councilmember Jacobus.
I didn't have any questions as much as congratulations to Nick for putting in the app. I've known him for many, many years, and I don't believe this is a passing thought he was going to choose. I'm happy to see that he has decided to stay within Fremont and stay within our fire service. So I appreciate that he put in his position, and I think that he gave us good.
Any other comments? Comments from the public? Comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to this appointment. Councilman Jensen,
Yeah, I'll make the motion to appoint Nick Morris as fire lieutenant.
Councilmember Jacobus,
And I will gladly second that.
cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 14. Move to appoint Kelly Drake as police detective per mayor recommendation. This follows the same criteria. Civil service went through their interview process. I reviewed all of the applicants and their resumes, and then discussed the appointment with civil service and with police chief, and then made my recommendation for police detective to be Kelly Drake. And I think she'll do a great job. Any questions? Councilman Yerger?
No questions really, but I want to thank the mayor for including resume information in the material that we were offered to review, and welcome this appointment. Thank you.
Yeah, the challenge with that is I did do that, and it was my recommendation to do that. The challenge is I probably should not have sent the full resume because it's actually a violation of HIPAA rules. So at the end of the day, I thought I was helping the situation a little bit to give you a little bit of an overview, but we just, in the future, it'll be a basic something that we submitted. They're just, I don't, it is what it is. That's all I'm gonna say. So with that, thank you. I would take a motion to approve the appointment. Councilmember Jacobus.
I would make a motion to approve the appointment.
Councilmember Coons.
I'll second that motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 15, Resolution 2020-164, authorizing staff to execute a purchase agreement with Anderson Auto Group of Lincoln, Nebraska for 3 2020 Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicles for a total amount of $103,479 or $34,493 each. This time, Jeff, are you available to give a quick overview?
Good evening, Jeff Elliott, Chief of Police. So what this is we're asking permission to purchase 3 police cruisers. They're Ford Explorers, same as we purchased last year. They were ordered back in February off the state contract. We have not received them. We hope to receive them before the end of the fiscal year. However, that may be a challenge as a result of the COVID pandemic. We had the same problem last year for different reasons. But again, 3 police cruisers off the state bid, hope to receive them in September. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for staff? Councilman Coons? No. You're on. Councilmember Jacobus.
The only reason why I asked staff was pulled off, Jeff, was simply because we approved the, I don't know what you call upfitting in 3 vehicles at the prior meeting. And that upfitting was intended for these 3 vehicles.
I'm sorry, Councilman Jacobus, I can't understand you. Please, could you just repeat that?
The last council meeting, we approved upfitting for 3 police vehicles. Are these the 3 vehicles that we approved at the last meeting to upfit?
Yes, this would be the for those 3 vehicles, assuming we get them.
Okay, so these were actually ordered a while back, is what you're saying, and you're just now hopeful that it'll be here by the time the end of our fiscal year so we can bill it out?
That's correct. We ordered them, like I said, back in February, and then we asked you to approve the upfitting. So we're hoping we get the cars, and then when we get the cars, we will do the upfitting.
Now I understand. Thank you very much. That was my only question. I had no opposition to it.
Any other questions for staff? Comments from the public? Comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to resolution 2020-164. Councilmember Jacobus.
I make the motion to approve resolution 2020-164.
Councilmember Jensen.
I'll second that motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Next item is unfinished business. Item number 16. Ordinance 5540 for change of zone from rural GC general commercial on property generally located at the northwest intersection of Highway 77-275 at West County Road S. This would be for the second reading. At this time, we'll have staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. This is the second reading of an ordinance for a change of zone from R Rural to GC General Commercial. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan that shows this area for commercial uses. The property is proposed to be used for a dealership. It's outside of the city limits, but inside the extraterritorial jurisdiction. It will contain a private well and septic system. It will be developed to floodplain standards, and commercial uses are appropriate in the area, which is developed with highway commercial type uses. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff? Councilmember Jacobus.
Jennifer, I have just a few questions. One of them is this in.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Thank you. Is this area in the blighted and substandard area? And also, I understand it is outside the city limits. However, I found it odd that on a rezoning that we have information about the private well system as well as the floodplain. That seemed more like a permitting process, not a zoning change. But please specify if this is in the blighted and substandard area.
This is outside of the blight and substandard area. I included information about the floodplain and the well and septic system because that is how it will be developed.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Yerger.
So just to follow up on Councilmember Jacobus's question about the well, septic, and floodplain information permit that will be required. We don't need mention of that in this 5540 ordinance with regards to just the rezoning, but, or do we? And if we need it in here, then it's not here that I can see in the resolution. And if we don't, that will come up at some other point in the approval process as they develop this area.
Yeah, I included that for informational purposes only. The well and septic system will go through the approval process with the state and the building during the building permitting process. Again, our floodplain regulations and the state floodplain regulations and the federal floodplain regulations all require that as a part of the development, a floodplain development permit is required. It doesn't need to be part of the ordinance. It's something that is just already required. I included that for informational purposes.
Any other questions for staff? Comments from the public?
So turn on the audio. Mess something up.
Good evening, Mayor Gutchman, members of the City Council. David Hartman, I'm standing in for my law partner, David Mitchell, who made the request for this zoning change. It's a mere request to change the zoning in this for this parcel out north of Fremont, outside of the city limits, but within the Fremont zoning jurisdiction. And this is for the benefit of relocating a family-owned business that has been in Fremont, Nebraska for the last 68 years. It's a Larson International dealership that will be moved off of 23rd Street out so they're more visible on the bypass and a lot more traffic out there. And that is the purpose of the request. It's just a mere request for zoning right now. Obviously, the people involved in developing the site know that they will have to get a floodplain permit. And but this is the first step, so they continue to go forward. And some of these things were submitted to Jennifer Dam. So that, just for your information, to let you know that, yes, the project's moving forward, and they're working right now on a site plan, landscape plan, grading plan, stormwater runoff plan, and all which will eventually culminate in this floodplain development permit. But tonight, we're just here on the second reading. Mr. Mitchell presented this the last time. The council voted 8-0 in favor, so thank you for that vote. I would respectfully request tonight that the council move this on with a similar vote to the third reading. Again, this is for a family business that has been here in Fremont for 68 years. So thank you. Appreciate your time. Any questions?
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Comments from council? Councilman Yerger.
I'd make a motion to approve second reading of ordinance 5540 rezoning.
Second, Councilmember Jacobus.
I'll second that motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Now we'll have second reading.
Ordinance of the City of Fremont, Nebraska, amending ordinance number 5. An ordinance of the City of Fremont, Nebraska, amending ordinance number 5427 as it pertains to the zoning map to rezone the property generally described as parcel of land located in the southwest border of Section 35, Township 18 North, Range 8 East, Fremont, Nebraska, from R rural to GC general commercial, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, and providing an effective date on second reading.
This was the second reading. The third and final reading will be at the next meeting. Next item is new business. Item 17, ordinance 5541 to revise government salary plan. This would be for the first reading. This time we'll have staff report.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, Jennifer McDuffie, Human Resources Director. In front of you, you have our annual request to adjust the salary ordinance. The IAFF and AFSCME contracts provide for 2.5% increase effective October 1st, 2020. The FOP contract provides for a 3.5% increase effective October 2020. Those three contracts have been approved by council previously. Staff is recommending a 2.5% increase for all other non-union city classifications and pay grades. All of this has been accounted for in the budget, and I'm happy to take questions.
Any questions for Jennifer? Councilmember Jacobus.
Jennifer, in 2019, we had this discussion. I believe it was August. And I had asked questions about different pay grades. Some of them having been at combination positions. And one of them was Mr. Shaven as the utility engineer and assistant to the city on the utility side. And also Dave Godekins as director of public works and as the city engineer was a combined position. But also the questions that I had at that time included a look at all of the grade levels below 30, which were specifically towards the director of communications, which was still, for whatever reason, being classified as a level 21. And then also a director of the library. And you had said that prior to the 2020-21 budget talks, that you would have comparison study or analysis or whatever is done when it comes to salary ranges and level, and to have that done. And I did listen to the audio back, and that was actually August 27th of 2019. And also we had that same discussion in 2017 with similar commentary. And here we are now, 2020, and I don't see anything in here that's altering that. And one of the points I tried to make, and perhaps I failed to reiterate enough, was that we have a director of communications that's in charge of our PSAP, our manual system, and stepping way out of the confines of her defined positional responsibilities and reaching out to other communities, et cetera, and having those meetings and filling also in as a responder. And yet we still have her as a level 21. My concern is that we have underpaid on several positions, because when you cap out at step 8 at 33, and you have others that are at a level 30 that start out at 36, there's a huge disparity, both for the library director and also for the director of communications. And along those same lines, we haven't done much to, I think is it MSA for the Metro comparison wages. And I understand this is, you know, a union thing, but also we have non-union members such as police chief and fire chief that I think have not been addressed. We haven't done anything to improve their levels. We've been merely passed along the COLA. So there's positional changes, and we do have money in the budget for that. We just seem to be top heavy in a few arenas for part-time positions and not heavy enough where we have full-time professional people who are well-trained and have spent many years on the job. And I think with everything that's been going on and the extra hours, now would be the time to address some of those issues of concern with underpay as well as overpay.
So we are currently doing an array study. We have a consultant that is working on that for all non-union positions. Unfortunately, with the pandemic going on, a lot of city offices shut down. A lot of our comparables did, and they have been struggling to get enough information to be able to provide us a valuable report. I checked in with him last week, and last I talked to him, they still were only about 50% of the cities that they needed information from, but they had lots of promises to get the rest of the information. So he was hopeful that he would be able to move much more quickly from this point on, since everybody seems to be getting back to business. But we are still doing that. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we just hit a major roadblock trying to get information from the other cities. So that is in progress.
So would there be any issue with approving the union pay levels as requested and tabling the non-union, simply because we need to have these? We've shoved this off. 2017, when we actually had strategic planning and did a full onslaught of budgetary discussions amongst all heads of departments, et cetera, this was a request, it wasn't addressed. And then last year, this was a request again, when we didn't have a full onslaught of budget discussion, and it got pushed off. And yet here we are, just short of, well, actually a year later, and we still haven't addressed those concerns. So I wonder what the issue would be in continuing this part of the discussion, but approving the union part of it.
It is an ordinance, so it would require 3 readings. Council can do what they prefer, but it does require 3 readings. We don't know what the reports are going to say when we get them back. We don't know that we're going to be able to make all of the changes, but we have that in our budget. And I don't know for sure when he's going to have that back to me. Like I said, he's been struggling to get the information we need to have valuable data to be able to review.
Councilman Yerger.
My comments with regards to this agenda item run somewhat parallel, I guess, to Councilmember Jacobus's thought process. Obviously, with regards to the contract matters for police and fire and what we have specified in those agreements, Ordinance 5541 should address those, and we should be moving forward. My personal preference is with regards to the non-union classifications, is that we should bifurcate those, and we should look and analyze those more specifically with regards to whether or not across the board increases are the way to go, or whether or not we need to be more specific. And I think that that requires a different set of, or different dialogue perhaps than affecting the contract changes that are already in place with 2.5% and 3.5% changes. Whether we proceed or how we proceed with non-union position, pay grades, et cetera, I think is worthy of discussion. And personally, I would like to see ordinance 5541 split in that way. Proceed with the union-related increases under the current 5541 and to take up the non-union ones in a separate ordinance for additional discussion.
Councilmember McLean.
Yeah, I understand some of the concerns I'm hearing, but I'm also concerned about the message that you could send to the overall city employee workforce. There's no reason we can't, as a council later on, make adaptations on positions that might need to be adjusted upward. It sounds like it's what we're talking about here. But to just say we're gonna say if you're in a union, we're gonna approve the rest of you. Well, we're not sure what we want to do. I think that sounds a really message right now. I wouldn't like to do that.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yeah, I would pair what Councilmember McLean said. It's, if we get in here to where it looks like one council member is trying to get somebody else a raise, and another council member is trying to get somebody else a raise, we don't want to go down that road at all. But what we have in front of us is good.
Any other comments? Councilmember Jacobus.
Comment would be that I waited now 3 years to have this addressed, and we passed it on first approval and struggle and say, well, you should have brought it up first, and we should have amended it. By the time we get to the third, there's no change. So since 2017, this has been an issue of concern. We have areas that have been not addressed. It isn't just 1 or 2 positions. It's all the way down the line. There hasn't been any improvement in levels, and there is room for improvement on the non-union. I want to improve their pay and get it approved, but it's been a struggle trying to do so for 3 years.
Comments from the public. Comments from council. I would take a motion to introduce and hold the first reading. Councilmember Jacobus.
I would make a motion to amend this to allow for union only to move forward.
Councilmember Yerger.
I would second that motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion fails 2-5. I already went on to the next step.
You want to put that up there?
Now I would take a
Not up there.
vote again. Cast your vote.
Read the vote. Okay. Voting nay, Klein, Ellis, Coons, Bechtel, Jensen. Voting yea, Yerger, Jacobus. Motion fails 2-5.
I would take a motion to introduce and hold first reading. Ordinance 5541. Councilman Jensen.
I will make the motion to introduce and hold first reading of ordinance 5541.
Councilmember McLean.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
carries 6-1.
Now, first reading.
Ordinance in the city of Fremont, Nebraska pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number 5533 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication in pamphlet form and providing an effective date on first reading.
There'll be 2 more readings on this particular item. Item 18, ordinance 5542 to revise utility salary plan. This would be for the first reading. At this time, we'll have staff report.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, Jennifer McDuffie, Human Resources Director. This is the utility side of the salary ordinance. IBEW contract provides for a 2.5% increase effective October 1st. Staff is recommending a 2.5% increase for all non-union classifications and pay grades. I'd be happy to take questions.
Any questions for staff? Any comments from the public? Comments from council? Councilman Yerger.
On this item, I would move to amend this item as well, ordinance 5542, to only move the union portion of the plan at this time.
Is there a second? Councilmember Jacobus.
I'll second it.
Cast your votes to amend.
Motion fails 2-5.
I would take a motion to introduce 5542 and hold first reading. Councilmember Jacobus.
I see noted on here, even though Mr. Yerger's amendment to amend, I would still like to have the utility infrastructure board member pay removed. We have no other advisory board or committee that receives any pay for participating in an advisory group. And it is no longer a board of public works. So I'd like to have that at least struck and amend and make a motion to amend to do so.
There a second? Councilman Yerger.
I would second that amendment as well.
Cast your votes.
Motion fails 3-4.
I would say no.
Motion fails 3-5.
I would now take a motion to introduce the whole first reading of ordinance 5542 to revise utility salary pay plan. Councilman Coons.
I make a motion to introduce ordinance 5542.
Councilman Jensen.
I'll second that.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 5-2.
We'll now have first reading.
Ordinance to the city of Fremont, Nebraska, pertaining to pay plan for officers and employees, repealing ordinance number 5501 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for publication in pamphlet form and providing effective date on first reading.
There'll be 2 more readings on this particular item. Item 19, resolution 2020-165 authorizing City of Fremont Department of Utility staff to sign a purchase agreement, issue a purchase order to JCI Industries for a Byron Jackson 40VX circulating water pump. This time we'll have staff report.
It's good, I think. It's muted up there, but it's unmuted here.
Can you hear?
I tried that. It says you cannot start video because host has stopped it.
There it is.
All right. All right, Mayor, City Council, Jeff Shanahan, Plant Manager, Lundy Wright Power Plant. This is for a replacement pump for the circulating water pump on Unit 8. It pumps the water from the cooling tower to the condenser, pumps approximately 35,000 gallons a minute. This pump is utilized for cooling on the condenser. We're asking for a sole source on this, getting it from the original equipment manufacturer. We'll get the exact same pump. It'll fit in the exact same position. No engineering required. They've got the serial number. They've got all the drawings and everything to make this pump.
Any questions for staff? Councilmember Jacobus?
What is the age of this pump and what is the warranty on it that we're replacing?
The age of the pump is original. It's from 1956. Or, I'm sorry, 1976. 1976.
Okay, that's not so old.
No, it's not so old. I think the warranty on the new pump is a year.
So $362,000 is just a year?
Yep. I can double check that. We plan on, we'd like to get it ordered before September. Once it's ordered, if we get it ordered by September 1st or September 4th, something like that, they're hoping to get it delivered by the end of April. So we would like to do it during an outage. We probably won't get it done in the spring outage, but we'll have it available in the fall when we can get it replaced. Yeah, it's made.
And because it is a duplicate of, it'll be a perfect fit.
Yep.
And we won't have to have any engineering.
No modifications. It's same design.
Thank you.
Councilman Yerger.
And my only question in that regard is with regards to the sole source purchasing and the 3-bid process that we typically have to follow. I understand exactly why you want the exact same thing. My only question would be are others capable of providing the exact same thing, even though they weren't the original source? And do we have an obligation to at least ask? And I guess that's a question for legal. I'm not familiar with the sole source purchasing, and we use this customarily with regards to direct replacement, and therefore this gets us around the three bids.
We're just to have a purchase agreement, we wouldn't need to do that bidding process that you're discussing, especially when it's just gonna be a replacement of the old one. No, it's not gonna Yeah, as I stated, for this type of sole replacement, wouldn't need to do that, go through that process.
Councilmember McLean.
Yes, I just wanted to refresh. I think I read in the report that this pump has been patched in the past, so it's kind of running on,
What we did was over the last 4 or 5 years, we've sent these in to the manufacturer to get them rebuilt. One of the pumps was able to be rebuilt, and we've got it in service and available. This particular pump, we did not want to invest that kind of money to rebuild it because the case was in such bad shape. So we patched the case so that we had a redundant pump. Now we want to get it replaced as soon as, you know, it's running, but we'd like to have one available because you have to have it, otherwise you're not running the plant. So it's a critical component.
and it was budgeted in the capital.
It has been in the capital improvement plan. We're moving things around as we fit them, but yes, it's in the
Did
plan.
it come in as to where you thought it would come in?
I think when I had it in the budget, I had around 400 or 500,000. So we're right in the ballpark. We've quoted these out to get replaced. So we had a pretty good idea what it was going to be.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Comments from the public? Comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to resolution 2020-166. Councilman Jensen,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2020-166.
Councilman Coons,
I'll second that motion.
Point of order, it's 2020-165 according to our agenda.
I read the one below, I'm sorry. 2020-165. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2020-165.
And a second, Councilman Coons.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Item 20, resolution 2020-166, authorizing staff to purchase additional natural gas capacity from Northern Natural Gas. This time we'll have staff report.
Troy Shaveman, Assistant City Administrator, Utility. In May, Northern Natural Gas sent out notification that they were having an open season for natural gas capacity. Part of it was general open season, and the other part was expansion open season. The difference is a general open season is when somebody on the line gives back their capacity, and then Northern offers that up to everybody. And generally that's just put in at the existing tariff rates. The expansion portion is when Northern does improvements to their system and it results in additional capacity. And there's typically a cost, an increased either rate or a contribution to aid in construction associated with that. This is for winter capacity only. Fremont put in for 2,500 decatherms per day. We were given 531 decatherms per day in the general portion. In the expansion portion, we actually got the full 1,969. Is that right? For the expansion portion of the open season, the cost associated with that is actually going to add to the current tariff rate that we pay about 8.6 cents per decatherm per day. That's actually the lowest we've seen on an expansion open season, at least since I've been here. The 8 cents is typically that number you'll see will be in the 16 to 24 cents. For reference, we're asking for about 2,000 decatherms per day here. If we did the contribution aid in construction, our cost would be about $1.2 million. Last year, when we put in for about the same amount, that cost was about $3.8 million. We didn't do that at the time because the cost was too much. But we feel like this is an acceptable price to pay for natural gas capacity. Our winter capacity right now is maximized in the 19,500 range. We have had days in the past where our usage has been in the at least above 19,000 range. So we are definitely butting up against the winter capacity. Our capacity in the summer that we have right now is about 13,151. We don't really ever get above 10,000 in the summer. So we're not proposing to add any summer capacity at this time. Adding the 2,500 decatherms per day will raise our capacity in the winter up to about 22,500. So if we did that, if you're looking at peak days that we've had so far, both the summer and the winter capacity would be in that 2,500 to 3,000 decatherms per day over what we had for a maximum. My personal opinion is with the growth that Fremont has had over the past few years and seems to be continuing having right now, at least until that starts to slow down, I think Fremont would be well served to at least take a shot at any capacity when it becomes available. Natural gas is probably the one utility that we have the least control over. If we need more water, we can drop another well. If we need more electricity, we can bring it in on the tie line. If we need, sanitary, we've got a lot of land out there now we can build on. Gas, we're kind of at the mercy of Northern and what they tell us that line can hold. Basically, that line has a fixed amount on how much it can carry to us. And when that's done, that's done. And you're probably looking at Northern building another complete line, and the cost for that, I don't even imagine. It would certainly be a lot more than this. So I think staff's recommendation is that this is a good deal for Fremont to get ready for at least additional load that we know is coming with Sunridge, Gallery 23, Morningside Crossing, all the additional homes and businesses that are coming in. So I can take any questions.
Councilman Yerger.
So Troy, you just mentioned several of the subdivisions that are going in that will give rise to additional demand. It kind of fits into the question that I wanted to ask generally, which is the extra capacity or demand that you say that we're going to likely need to cover, makes sense. My question really is, how much of this is driven from residential growth and how much is driven by business growth, if you know what kind of a relationship there is there, and how that translates into recovery of those costs from residential customers versus business customers for the extra capacity we're asking for.
So probably the easiest way to answer that would be that, your largest residential use of gas is going to be in the winter. And so if you look at like our max day in the summer, which is where you're pretty much all you have on is commercial, industrial, and water heaters or other smaller home uses, our max day there is about 10,000. And so in the winter, when all the homes are firing their gas furnaces, the number jumps to closer to 20,000. So really, you're probably looking at least from a peaking standpoint, residential part's probably 10,000, and there's a portion of the residential that's in the lower 10,000, but it's probably 50-50, I would guess, residential and commercial / industrial.
And probably not industrial because they are on an interruptible rate. So we shut them off during peaking time. So it would be mostly commercial and residential.
Any comments from the public? Comments from council? I would take a motion in regards to item or resolution 2020-166. Councilman Yerger.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2020-166.
Councilman Coons.
I'll second that motion.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
Next item is 21. Move to approve the recommendation of the mayor to appoint Amanda Moaning to term on library board ending January 2021. I'm a bit perplexed on this one since number one, I didn't make this appointment. So I didn't put it on the agenda. This was put on the agenda by the library director and the library board, which truly does not follow the protocol. Our code clearly states the mayor makes the appointment to the library board. This could be done simply, and it was recommended to the library board to provide the mayor with this appointment or the name, their recommendation, with some contact information. That never happened. I certainly didn't want to embarrass Amanda Moaning, similarly like we have in the past, either by the council or by the library board. So I took it upon myself, which the mayor shouldn't have to track down phone numbers, but did, and had a great conversation with Amanda Moaning. We talked for about half hour, and truly she loves, she's a Fremont resident her entire life, loves the library, has a young child. She teaches actually pre-education or preschool, actually at Howard Elementary. She's taught at Head Start. She's well-rounded. I talked about the fundraising efforts, and she said she worked to garner support from other school teachers. So the school teacher connection was important to me. So having said this, I plan to appoint Amanda Moaning, but this is not the way the process works. And in the future boards, future directors, all they have to do is get the recommendation to me with a phone number so I can make those calls. That's all I ask. It doesn't have to be as difficult as this was. Thank you. Councilmember Jacobus.
It's technology. From what I understand, this was done at a board meeting to where Assistant City Administrator Mr. Weimer attended. I did talk to one of the board members today about this because it wasn't clear where the recommendation was coming from, and I get what you're saying. I guess that was discussed and that should have been passed on to you. I also had chatted with this person about Ms. Manning, and I felt comfortable with it, but I'm glad that you do in the long run support and that you did take the extra step to reach out and chat with her. So I have no issue with proceeding with this.
Any other comments? I would take a motion to appoint Amanda Moaning for a term ending January of 2021. I did explain that to her as well. It's only a short term, and that she would be up for reappointment with the next mayor. But she felt very comfortable and very passionate about this, and I think she would be a good board member. Councilmember Jacobus.
I make a motion to approve the appointment of Amanda Manning for the library board.
There's a second? Councilman Jensen?
Yeah, I'll make the second.
Cast your votes.
Motion carries 7-0, Mayor.
I would take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Jensen?
I will make the motion to adjourn.
Councilmember Jacobus?
Now I'll second that one.
Cast your votes.
7-0, Mayor.
Time is 8:32. Thank you all for attending.
Come on, heart attack.